Special senses. The sense organs contain neuroepithelial receptors that receive information from environment and from within the body and transmit it to central nervous system, CNS. Taste sensation through taste buds, which are chemoreceptors located in oral cavity. The gustatory or hair cells, that is neuroepithelial cells, are surrounded by sensory nerve fibers, carrying taste sensation to central nervous system, CNS. Smell sensation through olfactory cells, which are chemoreceptors located in the nasal cavity. The axon of these cells pass in the olfactory nerve to the central nervous system. Vision through the eyes, which are photoreceptor system. Hearing and equilibrium through audio receptors and the vestibular system in the ear. Various other sensations as touch, pain, temperature, pressure, vibration, and proprioception through receptors located in the skin, connective tissue, muscles, and tendons.
Eyeball. The eye is the visual organ located in and protected by bony socket, provided with a padding of fat. Its anterior surface is covered and protected by the upper and lower eyelids and is moistened by lacrimal fluid, watery in nature, called tears, secreted by the lacrimal glands. Extrinsic muscles attached to the external aspect of the globe move the eyes in a coordinated manner to help the desired visual fields. The wall of the eyeball consists of 3 coats. From outside inwards they are the outer fibrous coat, also called the tunica fibrosa, is formed from cornea anteriorly and sclera posteriorly. The middle vascular coat, also called tunica vasculosa or uvea, formed from iris and ciliary body anteriorly and the choroid posteriorly. Then the innermost coat is the nervous coat, which is the retina. The interior of the eye is subdivided into an anterior chamber bounded anteriorly by the cornea and posteriorly by the iris and the central part of the lens. The posterior chamber, which is the space between the iris in front and the peripheral portion of the lens and the ciliary processes behind. Both anterior and posterior chambers contain Equus Humor, which provides nutrition for the anterior structures of the eye. Both chambers also are continuous through the pupil, which is an aperture present in the iris. The cavity behind the lens is called the Vitriol Cavity and is filled with a transparent gel called the Vitreous Humor.
Cornea, it is the transparent, highly innervated avascular anterior 1/6 of the tunica fibrosa. Vascularization of the cornea occurs in vitamin B2 deficiency. Its junction with the sclera is called the limbus, containing vessels from which the cornea receives its metabolites. Cornea receives nutrition from blood vessels of the conjunctiva, blood vessels of the sclera, and diffusion from the Equus Humor. Cornea is usually wet by the secretion of lacrimal and tarsal glands. This secretion is constantly evaporated at the same time to maintain the cornea clear and transparent. Cornea is the main refractory media of the eye, so it must remain transparent. Corneal damage leads to corneal opacity, which is treated by corneal transplantation. That can be done successfully due to absence of blood vessels and lymphatics from the cornea. The intercellular substance in the stroma is more abundant than the cells. Structure. Cornea is formed of 5 layers. Epithelium is non-keratinized stratified squamous epithelium covering the outer surface. Pallemans Membrane. Stroma or substantia propria. Desmos Membrane. Corneal Endothelium.
Refractive media of the eye. It includes all media through which light passes before it reaches the retina. It includes the cornea, the anterior chamber of the eye containing Equus Humor, the posterior chamber of the eye containing also Equus Humor, the lens, the Vitreous Body, which occupies the interior of the eye behind the lens.
Structure of the cornea. Stratified squamous non-keratinized epithelium covering the outer surface. It consists of 3 to 4 layers of cells joined together by numerous desmosomes, resting on straight basement membrane, and has great power of regeneration. That is, showing many mitotic figures in the lower layer of the epithelium. The epithelium is richly supplied with free nerve endings for pain stimuli. The surface cells have microvilli which retain a film of tears over the cornea, protecting it from dehydration. Pallemans Membrane. It is a non-cellular, transparent, homogeneous membrane formed of collagenous fibrils embedded in a condensation of intercellular substance. Its function is to provide firm stability, strength, and acts as a protective barrier against injuries and microorganisms. It cannot regenerate, so once it is injured, it is healed by a scar from the underlying stroma, leading to corneal opacity. Stroma, or substantia propria. It constitutes about 90% of the corneal thickness. It is a connective tissue layer consisting of regularly arranged collagenous fibers running parallel to the curvature of the cornea. and spindle-shaped fibrocytes, keratocytes, or corneal corpuscles. Desmos membrane. It is considered a true basement membrane produced by the corneal endothelial cells. It is a homogeneous collagenous membrane on the posterior aspect of the corneal stroma. Corneal endothelium. It is a simple squamous epithelium lining the posterior aspect of the cornea, having numerous pinocytic vesicles and mitochondria. The cells continuously absorb fluid from the stroma and thereby prevent excessive hydration of the extracellular matrix that would result in opacification of the cornea. Transparency of the cornea is due to lining epithelium is stratified squamous non-keratinized, resting on a straight basement membrane. The absence of blood vessels and lymphatics. The presence of regular arrangement of connective tissue cells and fibers. The cells, fibers, and matrix have the same refractory index. Continuous evaporation of water from the surface together with the function of corneal endothelium, which prevents excessive hydration of the stromal matrix that would result in opacification of the cornea.
Corneoscleral junction or limbus. It is the junction between cornea and sclera. Several changes occur in the cornea at the junction. Stratified squamous epithelium covering the cornea becomes continuous with that of the bulbar conjunctiva, covering the exposed surface of the sclera. Pallemans membrane stops abruptly at the junction. The substantia propria is continuous with the scleral connective tissue. At this junction, the canal of Schlemm is present, which is an ovoid space lined by endothelial cells and is connected to the venous drainage of the eye. Canal of Schlemm is the site of drainage of Equus Humor, and its obstruction leads to glaucoma, which is increased pressure in the eye. Desmos membrane is replaced at the angle by radial anastomosing ligaments, the pectinate ligaments. The spaces between them are known as the spaces of Fontana. The endothelium on the posterior surface of the cornea stops abruptly at the junction. Sclera. It is the tough, opaque white, avascular posterior 5/6 of the fibrous coat, formed of irregular white fibrous connective tissue, which is formed of irregularly arranged collagenous fibrils with flat fibroblasts and elastic fibers resistant to muscular contraction. Its inner part, adjacent to the choroid, contains pigments, melanocytes, and small number of elastic fibers. At the exit of the optic nerve, the sclera thins and forms a fenestrated membrane. Functions of the sclera. It protects the interior of the eye. It aids in maintaining the shape of the eye. It is the site of attachment for extrinsic muscles of the eye. Middle vascular coat is made from iris and ciliary body anteriorly and the choroid posteriorly. Iris. It is a sheet like diaphragm in front of the lens and divides the space between the cornea and the lens into anterior and posterior chambers. The iris is composed of 4 layers. The outer visual layer formed of loose connective tissue containing blood vessels, lymphatics, and melanocytes. Stroma of loose vascular connective tissue containing melanocytes and fibroblasts. Muscle layer formed of sphincter and dilator pupillae muscles. Sphincter pupillae muscles are smooth muscle fibers arranged circularly around the pupil. They are under the control of parasympathetic stimulation. Their contraction closes the pupil. Dilator pupillae muscles are modified myoepithelial cells that contract under sympathetic stimulation and dilate the pupil. Then posterior epithelium is a 2-layered epithelium of cuboidal pigmented cells, which are continuous with the ciliary epithelium. These cells eliminate excessive light from the eye and reduce glare. Color of the eye is determined by the amount and distribution of pigments in the iris, not by the number of melanocytes. For example, various shades of blue color are due to the presence of few melanin pigments restricted to the posterior surface of the iris. On the other hand, darker color is due to the presence of many melanin pigments distributed throughout the stroma of the iris. Pink color in albinos is due to the presence of hemoglobin in the vasculature of the iridial stroma, together with lack of melanin pigments in the cells. Ciliary body is a wedged shape, extends from the base of the iris to the ora serrata, which is the anterior termination of the neural retina. It has ciliary processes from which fibers extend, holding the lens in place. Ciliary body is formed of connective tissue, melanocytes, blood capillaries, and ciliary muscles, which control the shape and therefore the focal power of the lens. The inner surface of the ciliary body is lined by ciliary epithelium, which is a continuation of the pigment epithelium of the retina. Ciliary epithelium is formed of 2 layers of cells. Both show basal enfoldings and numerous mitochondria. Outer columnar layer rich in melanin, which is the pigmented layer. Then inner non-pigmented simple columnar epithelium elaborates the Equus Humor. Equus Humor is a plasma-like fluid which differs from the plasma in electrolyte composition and low protein content. Choroid is a thin, brown, highly vascular membrane that lies between the sclera from outside and the retina from inside. The choroid provides the retina with blood and supports it. Choroid consists of 3 main layers. Outer vessel layer formed of loose connective tissue containing blood vessels, lymphatics, and melanocytes. Choriocapillary layer consists of a network of fenestrated blood capillaries for the nutritional needs of the retina. Then, glassy membrane is the innermost layer in close contact with the pigment epithelium of the retina. It is formed of fusion of the basement membrane of the pigmented layer of the retina and the endothelium of fenestrated blood capillaries. Lens is a soft transparent biconvex avascular structure suspended from the ciliary body present behind the pupil between the iris and the vitreous humor. The lens consists of capsule, is a homogeneous elastic membrane which surrounds the lens. Epithelium is a single layer of cubical epithelium present on the anterior surface of the lens under the capsule. Then, the lens fibers are derived from the epithelial cells and form the main bulk of the lens. Cataract is opacity of the lens due to accumulation of brownish pigments in the lens fibers, so the vision is dimmed or lost. It occurs in old age or due to excessive exposure to ultraviolet rays and in diabetes mellitus. Advancing of age, on the other hand, decreases elasticity of the lens, leading to presbyopia, a refraction error, corrected by eyeglasses. Vitreous body is a jelly-like substance composed of water, polysaccharides, mainly hyaluronic acid, and collagen-like fibers. Functions of the vitreous body. It is one of the refractory media of the eye. It supports the lens anteriorly and the retina posteriorly. It allows transfer of materials to and from the retina.